to let as much air into the middle of the tree as possible, because this is very far from being an ideal site, particularly in Wales, because it's quite enclosed. It's sort of, and the damp air gets trapped by the trees, and so you get a lot of canker, which is the main disease that they suffer from here in Wales, because it's a fungal disease. Oh no, well, it's bacterial. I think, I'm not sure. Anyway, it spreads very nicely in still damp air, which is what we've got a lot of here. And we had to take out a couple of trees, was it one or two, last year altogether, because every single twig was cankered. So the ones that have survived have done so by a process of natural selection. They're the ones which are capable of surviving in this difficult place. But even so, that one, for example, is very badly affected by it, and I don't know if that will last. The far one there, we can have a look at that in a moment.
But can I just say, George, we have planted 4 new trees to replace, so any of the trees that we are losing, we're replanting as soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah, and these are all good Welsh, North Wales varieties which will do well here. So what happened? You can see what we did last year with this tree. We took off these lower branches so that you have pretty well just one crown point, one place from which the main branches go, so you can create that nice goblet shape. We took off a lot of the vertical growth. You can see, you can see where we did that, and we're basically trying to get it to move outwards like this. Now, what the tree's done in response is to put up a lot of these water shoots, which ideally we should have taken off in the summer. June is the best time to take those off, because otherwise it just puts a lot of energy into the shoots rather than into the fruit. But we can make a virtue of some of them, because we can start using them to create spur systems. If you'd like to have a look at this, it's a spur system we've been able to develop. Not a very neat one, it has to be said. But what you've got is a little twig which either got cut or broken off a couple of years ago, and that started putting out buds. These are all, you see, there are 2 fruiting buds, one there, one there. Ideally, you end up with a spur system where you've got loads of fruiting buds all clustered, not too close, but you pack as much potential fruit production into every twig as you possibly can. And so what you do to do that is you'll cut back your shoots to encourage them to go lateral and to start putting out the little fruiting buds. And then next year you'll cut back the lateral shoots, and so they'll put out little fruiting buds, and you create a complex called a spur system, which then creates packs as much fruit onto a tree as possible. Because in ideal conditions, these trees, which are sort of semi-standards probably, should be giving you 80 or 100 pounds of fruit, each one of them every year. But in order to get that, you have to give them as many opportunities to produce fruit as possible. So you want as many of these fat fruit buds as you can possibly get. Now, but we're not only doing that. I mean, that's part of what the task is going to be today, is that what you call regulatory pruning, spur pruning. We're also going to do a bit of tidying up, so all these need to come off, because it's trying to sort of undo the damage that we did to it last year and get those side branches back. And we don't want those, because we want to keep it concentrated on one level as much as possible. And of course, obviously a lot of these trees never really got pruned, and so it's very hard to get it to where you want to get it. It's not. I wouldn't start from here. Is what we say with most of them here. But so we're sort of trying to sort of bash them into some kind of approximation of the shape that we want. But we don't want too much crowding. So in a situation like this, you only would want one of these twigs here, because you don't want to create 2 spur systems which are going to start fighting each other. But ideally, what you want to do is to start pruning them so that they're growing outwards. So a good example here, you've got a bud here which is facing out. You don't want a bud which is facing up, because wherever that bud is facing, that's going to be the direction of growth. So this bud is the one you want to preserve, so that the spur starts to loop out like that. So you cut it just above the bud, and generally sloping inwards, so that the bud is on the outside of the slope. And with ones like this which are vertical, where there aren't really any great buds to cut to, that one would be the one I would go for. Keep it low, so that you're not going to have too much crowding in the middle, and then it'll put out a side shoot, and then you get another side shoot from this one here, and you can start creating a spur system like that. There's no, you can't look at a tree and think there's only one way to do it. It's a matter of judgment, and just getting your eye in, and you soon begin to see, get the feel for what you're trying to achieve. So a good example is here. You've got a couple of opportunities. I mean, I would probably take that to there, because there you've got an outward facing bud, which can start looping out this way to get it as the whole thing as open and horizontal as possible. This one, you don't want this coming across too far, because it's going to cross with another tree, and we want to avoid crossing if we can. So I think I would take it to this bud here, and again this will grow out below the level of where this one is growing now. Now, there's some wood which, is always difficult with these trees, because they started off at the wrong place with them. But there's some wood which, ideally, we want to start removing. But we don't want to remove so much that we're not going to get any fruit in the next couple of years. And so, with something like this, what I would start off with is taking off these ones here, and having this as your leader. And then take this, so this would be the last thing left from the branch. These would come off. We basically want everything off the ground. And then this leader, I would tend to take down to this bud here. Then again, it comes out further this way. And basically, ideally, you want these trees to spread until the twigs are almost reaching each other. Now, they might not all have the potential for that. I mean, the one behind you, for instance, that's on a dwarfing rootstock. You can see that by the fact that it put out almost no wood in the last year. It's got almost a self-creating spur system. And you see, I mean, all it does basically is put out spurs, because it's on a restricted rootstock.
So that's a good bed, or?
Well, it's great if you've got a small garden.
But it
I wouldn't have planted it here, because you've got plenty of space.
But the fruit buds, I mean, I keep hearing this so many times, fruit buds. What's a fruit bud? How do I know what's a fruit bud?
Well, the fruit buds tend to be these bigger, fatter buds. On this tree, this isn't a very good example. If we have a look at this tree here, I don't always get this right, I have to say. That to me looks like a fruit bud. There's a big fat one, and this to me looks like a leaf bud. It's close into the to the twig, and it's a much smaller, neater, scaly. It looks like a little scale, really. Yeah. And see that looks like
it's already swollen. No,
Yeah,
maybe.
these are all fruit buds,
yes,
aren't they?
that's right. Yes. Look, there's a couple of fruit buds
Which
here.
means that that's going to turn into fruit, or that's going to produce another spur that produces fruit?
It'll probably you'll get fruit, and then you might well get some leaves coming out in the middle of them as well.
Right.
So it's, but it's
Okay.
But a leaf bud is not going to turn into a fruit bud.
Right. Well, okay.
It's not always easy to
No,
tell
no.
which goes. Yeah, so I mean, it's really a question. Once you've got the principle you're trying to achieve of just using your judgment and feeling your way around it, really. And if in doubt, take it down just a little bit to begin with, and then maybe ask someone else. And I mean, eventually, you want to be quite ruthless, but you want to be quite ruthless in a controlled way.
I like that. Being ruthless in a controlled way.
Now there's some. Come with me, look. Now, there's some trees you can't really do a lot about. I mean, this one, it's very hard to know what to do with it, really, because it's got this very restrictive growth form. It hasn't got any obvious shape which you can bash it into without taking it right down, which you obviously don't want to do. But because it's not really going anywhere, it's not going to start conflicting very much. So my suggestion is just leave it all together.
It throws off a lot of apples,
Yeah,
George.
you can see.
yeah.
I mean, you can also see that unfortunately, because of the conditions here, all these should be covered in fruit buds, but a lot of them have got none, because it's just not very happy here.
What if you tie them to a frame, to guide them along, to give them that shape going down?
It would be a fair bit of engineering. You need stakes and you need strong wires radiating from them. But even then, it's not This isn't terribly flexible wood, this. It's not like these water shoots here, which are very whippy. I don't know how much you could guide it, really. It's just it's on...
And it's the conditions that's stopping it, really, rather, as much as anything.
I think so, because I mean, if this was in Somerset or Herefordshire or something like this, every one of these would be just covered in buds, but most of them have fallen off. Yeah. And so this has got one bud or two buds on this bit, and there should be 4 or 5 on this little bit. And so it's just we're very far from the ideal conditions here. We really are. But we're doing the best we can. This even this year's water shoots are careful.
I think we've got to take this down, haven't we?
I think we probably have. Every look at the contour on this. I mean, this is, and you can't really create a surface thing because it's just everything dies back. And you can see the canker on the branches here. Look, all this is canker. I'm surprised there isn't any on the main stem actually. But look at that. That's classic canker tumour really. And these water shoots, it obviously wants to grow. But everything it puts out is just being blighted by this. And look, there's whole branches here. And
what's the main condition? Is it just a rain?
It's damp and still air, really.
It's not moving.
Yeah. If this was a more exposed hillside, it might still get some because it's so wet here, but it probably wouldn't get as much as here, where it's really trapped.
Yeah, can I just say, for 18 years, this was completely neglected. It was like Miss Havisham. It was covered in weeds and ivy and everything. You couldn't see the trees practically. So that's what they've suffered, and this is a result of being completely neglected for 18 years. And we just started... Sorry?
This is one of the older trees.
No, they're all 18 years old, except for this 1 or 2 which were replanted, and I don't know when that happened. And Jill and I are still trying to work out which tree is what, but we've got a basic plan down there. But Jill is not sure about the identification. We just need a few more fruiting years. But this is the result of this tree was completely covered in ivy and weeds, dripping off it like Miss Havisham's veils,
But what's clear here, Charmian, is that the canker's so established in it now that every time it tries to grow past it, it just gets infected.
I really think it ought to come down.
We've
got plenty more new trees we can plant that will be better looked after now.
If the main stem's not affected, could you not try and leave the main branches and then graft into it? Because it's,
Well, you would hope so, Abby, but look at this. This is right down at the bottom. There's nothing below it where you can see any
do it
canker.
sort of here, and then just stick your scions in and...
I think there's some varieties here which are going to resist it and some which aren't. And I think if it's suffering here... I mean, we had a St Edmund's Pippin before, which is one of the loveliest apples of all. It's it broke my heart having to cut it down, but it just obviously wasn't lasting here. And I think there's, some are doing all right. Like that one, whatever it is perfectly happy here. And I just think we have to stick with the varieties which are going to do well here. And that would be an awful lot of work, and you'd probably end up with the same results as we got now. That's my guess.
Yes, it's on the map.
Now, on this point with the canker, and this is critically important, particularly here, and more important here than almost anywhere else. Between trees, you've got to sterilise your tools. I've got some Jay's fluid solution in the bucket there, and you've got to give them a proper old swish around in that bucket, not just dip them in. Really swish them around for 30 seconds, perhaps even a minute, just to make sure that you kill any spores which are on that. Otherwise, you're literally injecting them from one tree to the next. You're picking them up and you're putting them onto the cut wood, and you'll spread the disease from one tree to the next. So the fact is,
it's a Reverend Wilkes, by the way.
Another lovely apple, but probably best suited to somewhere else. Look, just one moment, sweetheart, and then I'll be with you. I mean, they're probably all saturated in canker anyway, but the fact is that we just don't want to make it any worse by spreading it any further. So, yes, that's it really.
So you'll be trying to replant it with a more resistant, canker-resistant variety?
Well, Charmian's taken advice from Ian Sturrock, who's the man who's developed or discovered or rediscovered varieties which do very well in North Wales and in conditions like this. And so she's already planted a row across the bottom there.
Well, eight or nine of us planted them. It was
Yeah, well, I mean.